Guys, what's up? My name is Miranda. I've never actually made a YouTube video before, so this is my very first one. So I actually just want to make a video, as the title shows, about this whole thing about fat acceptance that is going on in society today. The first thing that I want to do, though, is I want to talk about this movement toward fat acceptance as well as what's been going on in the media. So the media is generally where all of this actually started. As weird as that sounds, it doesn't mean that the fat acceptance movement started from the media, but the media actually fronted the fat acceptance movement in an inadvertent way. So the media has always shown ultra thin women, ultra skinny women, tall, blonde, tan, fit, skinny, like not an ounce of fat on their bodies. So this has been the portrayal in every picture that you see, every billboard that you see, every commercial that you see, that this is what a woman is supposed to look like. This ultra lean, naturally slim, no broad, big bones, very slender, a waist the size of their head. This is what we've been taught to think is normal. The only reason that we think this is normal is because even though you're walking around a mall full of a whole bunch of other people your size or bigger, like totally average looking people, clearly you don't see supermodels walking around everywhere. But that's because these ads are very specifically designed to grab your attention when they're up in a giant photo. You notice the photo instead of all the people around you. And then you notice photo after photo after photo after photo. Hot, beautiful, tall, super perfect, abnormally perfect women everywhere. Now, mentally, this is what you start comparing yourself to. Not the people that are around you that are totally normal like you. The pictures of people who are completely unrealistically skinny, tall, perfect, poreless, ridiculously long, perfect, healthy hair that's usually a wig or Photoshop, obviously. So with all of this media surrounding us that this is the ideal perfect woman, this is who we are inadvertently comparing ourselves to instead of the people who are actually walking the earth with us, around us all the time. Now, how does that have to do with the fat acceptance movement? We're talking about skinny women. This is where a lot of self-body hate stems from. It's from seeing impossibly perfect women and thinking this is normal, then looking at ourselves in the mirror and thinking there's something wrong with me. This especially affects people who have a little bit of extra weight on their bodies. I mean, even more so than people who are just average healthy weight. It almost seems that if you're not underweight, there's something wrong with you and you're somehow fat. So you can imagine how people who are actually fat and actually overweight feel. They feel the biggest brunt of this self-hate. Now, why would the media be wanting us to hate ourselves? I mean, clearly they're posting pictures that catch attention. It's kind of like seeing a Ferrari driving down the street. It catches your eye. That's the whole point. They want you to look at it because it's rare. But when everybody starts doing that, it suddenly becomes the norm. Because you suddenly notice all these Ferraris driving around. You think, why don't I drive a Ferrari? Man, what's wrong with me? So what happens with all this self-hate is that is the way that they have actually specifically chosen to market to women ever since around the 40s and 50s when this World War II ended and all this big booming appliances happened. They have always been marketing toward women, mainly because they were, back then, the stay-at-home moms, the stay-at-home cleaning and stuff. They would market toward them because the men were typically working back in that day, and they didn't have household appliances that would help them clean better. They didn't think about that. The woman usually did. Obviously today is different, but marketing started preying on women way back in those days. Now what they discovered was that at a certain point of certain days, women are more likely to have a low point in their self-esteem. Now what they did on purpose after studying that there is a point of the day that women feel a little bit down on themselves, typically, they started releasing commercials that point out. Now, tell me if I'm wrong. Have you guys noticed this? Don't you hate your hair? Can't you just not stand it? Don't want to go out because your hair is so bad? Try this product and look fabulous. And along with that message of don't you hate your hair, you need to use our product. They are showing a picture of someone in the mirror really sad face looking at their hair like, I hate my body. And then when she's got the beautiful hair, she's laughing, she's out with her friends, she's looking at a cute guy. They are not marketing a product, they are marketing an idea that you are not good enough without their product. That is solid gold for their income. Now these are statistics. This is literally how it works. There are videos and books for marketing that this is how it works. You prey on a woman's insecurities to get her to feel like she is not good enough. Then she will buy your product. So that is how the media is having a pretty big effect on self-hate. And then overweight people are not just feeling bad because because they're the furthest away from that skinny perfect frame that everyone feels terrible about themselves because they're not looking like that. Overweight people are the furthest away from that goal, you could say, that media is telling us to have so that we buy all their products to look that way. So you guys can already see how ridiculous this is. But on top of that, media has a double whammy against fat people because people who are overweight or obese are always portrayed as stupid, idiotic, hungry all the time, nothing but food jokes. I mean, it's just like they cannot stop stuffing their face. And I mean, key characters to think of here: Patrick Star, Homer Simpson, Peter from Family Guy. These are all main characters that have been embodied a fat body because they're trying to pair it with stupidity, hungry, terrible decisions. And this is where that double whammy comes in. Because not only are they the furthest away from being that perfect skinny model that we are all paying stupid amounts of money to try and look like, which is ridiculous, but now they're also being portrayed as stupid and idiotic and selfish and hungry all the time, and they can't stop stuffing their face. Media has started the whole fat body hating to begin with. All right, now when fat people say, well, it's not just the media, people come up to me and they make me feel bad. They say something mean to me. This is actually based on the person's, typically, this is because of the person's self-consciousness about themselves. A lot of people go out and make fun of other people because they don't feel like they're good enough. So you might meet somebody who's 10 pounds overweight, who sees someone who's 100 pounds overweight. And they might say, oh, fatty, behind their back, purposely loud enough for the person to hear it so that they can think, I'm not fat, that person's fat. You realize this ends up being a self-conscious problem that these people are having. Does that make it okay? Absolutely not. But they are self-hating themselves, therefore they need someone else to hate on more than themselves to make themselves feel better. This is generally how all bullying works in the brain. It's a coping mechanism to not feel so bad about themselves, again, because media told them to feel bad about themselves in the first place. So generally, overweight, fat people are getting the worst brunt of this, all of this. And I can absolutely see why they're trying to start a fat shaming ending movement. And I think that is fantastic. Everyone should stop fat shaming. It's ridiculous. However, to say that being overweight, and not necessarily overweight, but obese, is a great thing, and actually it's not bad, actually it's better than being skinny, actually it's better than this, it's better than that, that is not really ending any problems, because you're actually now moving into the other side of things. You started off by saying, oh, they think they're better than me, oh, they make me feel terrible, and instead of saying, you know what, we're all equal, you decide to go a step further and say, you know what, we're better than you. This is not a healthy way to solve problems. What you're doing is you just picked up a firearm and started firing back at the other community. You're starting a war. This is not a way to fix problems. Now, there are a lot of people in the fat shaming ending movement, fat acceptance movement, that are absolutely just trying to think of themselves and everybody else as equal. I support your cause. I do not support the cause of saying that skinny women aren't real women, because there are genetically skinny women out there, and to call them not real women is the same as them calling you not a real woman because you're not a size 2. That would absolutely hurt someone's feelings if they were overweight. Someone who's naturally skinny and has a very hard time gaining weight, by firing back at them, you're not making them like you anymore. You're making them hurt. And I understand that that's another coping mechanism that our brains have. When we feel hurt, we want to hurt the person who hurt us. But what we need to realize is these people hurt you because they were already hurt in the first place, because media was telling them that they're not good enough either. Media has been telling us that none of us are good enough at any point in time, ever. Because if we felt that we were good enough the way we are, we wouldn't buy their product. And they are not in it for humanity, they are in it for profit. This is how marketing works. So, while I am not okay with firing back at the other side, telling them that they are not good enough, I am absolutely okay with saying that, yes, we should all stop judging each other. That sounds like a great place to start to me. Okay, so point number 2. Part of this fat acceptance movement is saying that there really is no statistical analysis, statistical proof that being overweight or obese, for the sake of this conversation, I will actually focus on the obese group. There is no proof that being obese is bad for you. However, what the statistics that they tend to pick and choose are very much so cherry picking. I have been a fitness coach almost my whole life. I actually started fitness coaching when I was 14. As a junior coach, I've been doing it nonstop until now. So I have seen a lot of people who are overweight, a lot of people who are underweight, a lot of people who are in every single category in between. So to say that there is no medical evidence that being overweight is harmful to you is blatantly wrong. You can cherry pick studies that say, oh, well, for instance, I just watched a video of another girl who said that, people who are overweight are more likely to survive type 2 diabetes than people who are of a regular weight who get type 2 diabetes. Now, one thing that I want to point out is that, first of all, you don't just get type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes tends to happen when you eat far too much sugar and you are killing your insulin supplies. Your pancreas and your liver can't handle it anymore. So you can be a skinny person who survives on absolutely nothing but energy drinks all the time, and you can make yourself a type 2 diabetic. However, the reason why you could say more overweight people are likely to survive than regular weight people is because, one, they are treated with much more priority because doctors know that it is much more dangerous for them. Number 2, so in other words, they're treated with better treatment. When you are overweight, you're in the hospital, you are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, they take more affirmative action to help you than the person who is skinny, because they assume that the skinny person is of a much lower risk factor than the higher weight person. Now, you tell me how that is more likely to survive, because basically it's almost like saying you are more likely to survive getting your leg chopped off than you will from a slow internal bleed. Because in the slow internal bleed, they don't notice how much you've been bleeding, and when you get your leg chopped off, everyone jumps up to save your life. Alright, that does not mean, yes, you are more likely to survive getting your leg chopped off than an internal bleed, but it does not mean getting your leg chopped off is healthier than an internal bleed. It means that they are two different things. One of them is more severe than the other. One of them gets treated more severely than the other, and the other sometimes goes unnoticed until it is too late. This does not mean getting your leg chopped off is a good thing, or getting diagnosed with diabetes at a higher weight is a good thing. It means it is actually a worse thing that, luckily, we tend to treat more seriously. I'm not saying that, someone with a lighter body weight can not get diabetes as bad as someone who is overweight. What I am saying is they absolutely can, but doctors will treat it more urgently, typically, if you are an overweight patient already. Now, my husband is a firefighter. He worked in the ER for a while. He has worked private ambulance companies. He is a firefighter now. So while I've been on the fitness side of things, he has been on the side of things of people who have chosen to neglect their health until it is too late. He has seen multiple people die. And most of his patients in life-threatening situations, so many of them are overweight, very overweight. So how is it that almost every single call that he goes on and has gone on for the last 3 years is almost always someone who is bedbound, someone who is very overweight, someone who is obese? There is a very clear link to lack of health in those who are obese. Now, you can think of it this way. If you have a cardiovascular system that is only designed to pump blood throughout one healthy range weight body, it is designed to pump a certain amount of blood through your body. When people become very, very large, it very dramatically increases the stress on your heart, because your heart is working so much harder over time to pump so much blood throughout your body, and it's not designed to. It is not designed to pump the blood for 2.5 people. It's designed to, maybe if you're a woman and you plan on getting pregnant, it's designed to pump enough blood to help out one healthy weight woman and a baby. Now, that's another statistic, is that when you are overweight, being pregnant is much more likely to have complications. Again, because your body is working so hard for you, and then you add a baby inside. Your body is under an immense amount of stress. So to say that there is no physiological connection of lack of health or stress in the body to your weight is absolutely false. Now, there are definitely worse overweight people than others. For instance, if you got overweight just by eating a lot of calories, but it was really healthy stuff, like let's say you ate a ton of avocado, olive oil, healthy stuff, but calorie dense healthy stuff. Maybe you're a nut addict. I love nuts. It's just, and I don't mean that I mean that in a silly way, not a mean way. So what I'm saying is, if you got overweight by eating super, super healthy foods that just happen to be really calorie dense, you are going to be a healthier overweight person than someone who got there by eating processed meats and McDonald's. I know that's like the staple example, but processed meats and high saturated fats amounts, and especially high sugar amounts, sugary soft drinks. Now, so what I am saying is, yes, there are absolutely different levels of health in people who are overweight. However, being overweight in itself causes more stress on the body. There are absolutely things you can do to help it once it's there. People who don't eat a lot of salt, again, maybe got that size because they were eating a lot of healthy food, but just a lot of it. They probably didn't have too much salt, which helps their blood pressure. So absolutely, you can be a large size and not necessarily be super, super unhealthy. Absolutely. But there are still going to be complications related to your weight, because your body is still pumping more blood than it should. It is still under more stress than it should be. You still have more weight on your chest. Your lungs are pumping harder than they are designed to. Yes, you cannot necessarily be a super unhealthy obese person, but that does not mean that you are a totally healthy obese person either, because that is almost statistically impossible. Because if you are a certain size, your body will be under a certain amount of stress in your joints, in your heart, in your lungs, in your organs, just because you are that size. So there is no point in saying that you are just as healthy as a fitness model when you are that size, because you physically cannot be. Your body is not functioning at its absolute best. Point number three that I want to make. The fat acceptance movement is about loving themselves. It's about loving yourself regardless of your size. That is something I agree with. Absolutely 100%. But should you love yourself so much in a state that is not necessarily good for you, that you decide to never change and in fact delve into it even more? That is something that's concerning to me. It ends up being alarming to me that they are actually not just saying love yourself for who you are and try to be a healthiest version of yourself, but no, you don't have to look like a supermodel. That's okay. Instead of that, they're saying the bigger the better. 300 pounds and counting is beautiful. They're changing it to where they're thinking the bigger the better. That is no healthier than saying the thinner the better. Because let me tell you, there are a lot of people who suffer from eating disorders who believe that the thinner the better. And those people wind up in a grave eventually. Having anorexia nervosa has the highest mortality rate of any mental illness, because they have a mentality that the thinner the better. Now, it is clear in evidence that there is a certain space that being healthy, a certain range of weight that you are healthy in, that you are the least likely to have any medical complications in, is right about, right here. So if you have this idea that the skinnier or the bigger the better, you are leaving that statistic that says you are more likely to live a longer, happier, healthier life. The same exact thing happens when you decide the thinner the better. You end up becoming so skinny, scrawny, and weak that you can't do normal activities. Just like when you become so big and heavy, you can't do normal activities. Now, if you have a problem with the media telling women the thinner the better, even though you're watching women starve themselves to death, if you have a problem with that the way I do, then why would you be supporting a cause that says the bigger the better and encourages people to eat themselves into an early grave? If you're not okay with the media saying the thinner the better, why are you saying the bigger the better? There are just as high of health complications on both ends of that scale. You should be encouraging people to wind up in that healthy range the way that our bodies are designed to be. You should not be encouraging anyone to drop below it to look beautiful or to go above it to look beautiful. This is about health. I think that is pretty much all I have to say. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Like I said, this is my first YouTube video. I'm not a nutritionist. I am not 100%. You can't quote me on everything that I am saying. However, I have done quite a bit of research, especially compared to the average person. There's a lot of reasons that I could go into that later. But yeah, if you guys have any questions that you want to get my opinion on, then absolutely ask them down below. And if you guys think that I should post another video, let me know.